A father's faith is the heaviest weapon a son can carry. Mine is what kept me breathing in the dark cellar long after my Volkssturm unit fled. The dust from the collapsed ceiling tasted like chalk and defeat. Then, I heard the boots, American boots, crunching on the rubble above my tomb. They had found me. The beasts had come. The rubble shifted above me. A slab of wood and plaster groaned. Dust fine and gray as ash sifted down onto my face. I held my breath. The Panzerfaust was a cold, useless weight in my numb hands. A shaft of weak, gray light pierced the dark. It fell across my boots. Then a shadow blocked it.
Got a live one. Kid, by the looks of it.
A voice, speaking English. It was not a roar. It was flat. Tired. More boots crunched. The hole widened. I saw the sky, a sheet of dirty wool.
Easy now. Don't move.
A shape leaned into the hole. A man. He wore a helmet, his face smudged with dirt and stubble. His eyes were not the eyes of a beast. They were just eyes, blue and very tired. He reached a gloved hand down.
Come on. Up.
My father's voice screamed in my head. They will show no mercy. My hands trembled so badly I dropped the Panzerfaust. It clattered on the broken bricks. The American did not flinch. He just kept his hand there waiting. I took it. His grip was firm, warm through the wool. He hauled me up into the light. The cold air hit me like a slap. I stood in the ruins of what was once a kitchen. Snow dusted the shattered tiles. 2 other Americans watched. Their rifles had loosely. They once a kitchen mare. Now the Jayet Madaman would knock of its dopper buth that provided and tired now.
Christ. How old are you, son?
I said nothing. My teeth chattered.
Never mind. Can you walk?
I nodded. My legs felt like water. And it.
Barn. Down the lane. Go.
He pointed with his chin. I stumbled forward, my oversized boots scraping through the snow and debris. They did not shove me. They just followed. The barn was ahead. Its roof was half gone. A red cross was painted clumsily on a plank by the door. From inside, a smell drifted out. It was coffee. And something else, something thick and salty. Stew. The smell was a physical force. Made my stomach clench so hard I almost fell a stow.
In you go.
I stepped through the broken door. The space was crowded with wounded men on stretchers. The air was warm, thick with the smell of blood, disinfectant, and that stew. A man in a stained apron looked up from a field stove. He saw me, saw my tunic. His eyes narrowed.
Just a kid, Doc. Found him in a hole.
The cook, the doctor, he just shook his head. He dipped a metal cup into the big pot and handed it to the sergeant.
Here.
Sergeant Miller took it. He did not drink it. He held it out to me. Steam rose from the cup. I could see chunks of meat potato. The smell was overwhelming. I stared at his hand, at the cup. This was the enemy. The monster, my fingers dirty and shaking, reached out. I took it. The heat seeped through the metal into my frozen skin. I raised it to my lips. The first taste was so rich, so good, it was a pain in my chest. I swallowed.
Hell of a thing.
He turned and walked away back to his war. I stood there, holding the cup, the warmth spreading through my hollow bones. The lie my father told me, the one I had carried like a stone, began to crack. The warmth from the cup was still in my hands when the world tore itself apart. It was not a single sound, but a wall of sound. A rolling, crashing thunder that came from the sky and the earth at once. American artillery, men shouted. I dropped the cup. It clattered on the frozen ground, the dark liquid so.
Get to the cellar. Now.
He was not shouting at me. He was pointing at his own men at the barn. But I ran back toward the shattered house where they had found me. The ground shook. Each impact was a punch in the chest. I stumbled through the broken door, down stone steps into the dark. The cellar was low and smelled of damp earth and old potatoes. I pressed myself into a corner, my knees drawn up. The tunic swallowed me. Above, the thunder walked. Each blast was closer. The timbers of the house groaned. Dust sifted down from the ceiling, gritty in my mouth. Then came the hit. Not a distant crash, but a deafening crack directly overhead. The cellar ceiling buckled. A beam snapped. A torrent of stone and plaster and splintered wood crashed down. The world went black and full of choking dust. The noise stopped, replaced by a ringing in my ears. Something heavy pinned my legs. I could not move. I was in a pocket of darkness. The only light was a thin, gray seam from a crack in the rubble above. I could hear nothing but my own breathing, fast and ragged. I listened. The artillery had stopped. Now there were other sounds moving past my tomb. The grind of tank tracks, the roar of truck engines, shouted daughters in English. The war was moving on, leaving me buried. The silence that followed was worse than the shells. It was complete. I was alone in the dark, under the weight of my own home. My breath hitched. The dust coated my throat. I tried to pull my legs free, but the rubble held fast. A sharp pain shot up my shin. I called out. My voice was a dry whisper. No one came. The Americans were gone. My own people were gone or dead. I thought of the sergeant's face. Not a monster's face. A tired man's face. He had given me coffee. Now he was gone. And I was here. The cold from the stone floor seeped through my thin trousers. I began to shake. Not from the cold, but from the silence. It was the truth settling in. They had left me. Everyone. Boots crunched on the broken stone above my head. Gravel trickled down through the floorboards. American voices. Harsh and flat, I held my breath. My heart beat against my ribs like a trapped bird.
Check the cellar. Might be a potato store.
The trapdoor groaned. A blade of weak, gray light cut the dust. I squeezed my eyes shut. This was it. The grenade. The burst of fire. The boots came down the wooden steps, heavy and sure. They stopped.
Hell.
I opened my eyes. He stood there, silhouetted against the light. The same sergeant. His helmet was off. He just stared. I tried to speak. To beg. My mouth was a dry hole.
Kid.
He didn't raise his rifle. He took 2 steps and crouched. His face was close. I saw the red lines in his eyes, the stubble gray in the dim light.
Your legs pinned.
He said it like a fact, not an accusation. He leaned past me, his shoulder brushing my arm. I smelled wool and sweat and tobacco. He braced his boots against the floor. His hands, thick and scarred, closed around the beam pinning my shin.
This will hurt.
He grunted. The wood groaned. A fire of pain shot up my leg. I cried out. The weight lifted. He tossed the beam aside with a clatter. He didn't move away. He looked at my leg. He looked at my leg, then at my face.
Can you stand?
I shook my head. The trembling was back, worse now.
Right.
He turned and called up the stairs, his voice tired.
Need a litter. 1 casualty. A boy.
He turned back to me. He unclipped his canteen from his belt. The metal was dull and scratched.
Here.
He held it out, not shoved at me. Offered. I stared at his hand. I took it. The water was cold. It washed the dust from my throat. I drank like an animal.
Easy. Slow.
I lowered the canteen, gasping. He took it back, his fingers brushing mine. They were warm. The monster. The beast. He was just a man. A tired man kneeling in the dirt of a ruined cellar. He had come back. Above us, more boots approached. The light from the open door grew. The light from the open door grew blinding. Boots scuffed on the broken floor above. I shut my eyes tight. Sergeant Miller moved. Not toward me. He stood and turned to face the open room.
Hold up. Just a kid. 1 prisoner. No weapons.
I heard other voices muffled and sharp. American voices. They spoke too fast for me to understand. Miller spoke again, his tone flat and final.
I said hold up. He's coming with me back to the aid station.
A hand closed on my arm. Not hard. A firm grip. Miller pulled me to my feet. My legs were water. He guided me up the broken cellar steps. The cold air hit my face like a slap. I kept my eyes on the ground, on the tread of his boots. Outside, the world was white and gray, ruined houses, snow falling on blackened timbers. The smell was cold iron and wet ash. An American soldier stood by a jeep.
Get in the back.
Miller pointed to the jeep. I climbed in, the metal seat freezing through my thin trousers. The vehicle smelled of oil and damp wool. Miller got in beside the driver. We jerked forward. The wind cut through my tunic. I wrapped my arms around myself, my whole body shaking. We drove past more soldiers. They looked at me with empty eyes. I was not a person to them. I was a thing captured. The barn came into view. 1 wall was gone.
Out.
I stood on the churned snow. He took my elbow and walked me inside the barn. The warmth was a shock. A stove glowed in one corner. The air was thick with the smell of blood, sweat, and that sharp medicine smell. He sat me on an empty crate near the stove. The heat soaked into my back. He walked away. I watched him go to a field kitchen set up on a table. He spoke to a man in a stained apron. The man looked at me, then nodded Mitter. And did Handaride know? Paper talk. He said no. Rabertoni talk. I stared at the tin. It held a thick stew. I saw lumps of potato, bits of meat. The smell was rich and heavy. My stomach twisted, a painful knot. I looked from the food to his face. His expression was tired, impatient.
It's food. Eat it.
My hands were still trembling. I reached for the tin. The metal was almost too hot to hold. The weight of it, full, was a foreign thing. I brought it to my lips. The first taste was salt and fat. It burned my tongue. I did not care. I ate. I shoved the food into my mouth. I forgot him. I forgot where I was. I ate like a dog. The warmth spread through my chest. My eyes began to water. When I finally looked up, gasping, the tin was half empty.
Here, for the rest.
I took the bread. My fingers brushed his. They were still warm. The monster. The beast who was to show no mercy. He'd given me water. Now he gave me food. More food than I had seen in weeks. A lifetime of lies, shouted from radios and printed on posters, cracked. Then it shattered. The enemy had a face, and it was kinder than any I had known in a long, long time. The bread was heavy and dark in my hand. The smell of the beef stew rose from the tin.
Easy now.
He spoke softly. I did not know the words, but the tone was clear. It was the voice my mother used when I was sick. It did not belong here. My whole body shook. The tunic was a cold, damp sack. I could feel the snow melting through the thin soles of my boots.
You're done. You hear me? Done.
He pointed at the ground, then at me, then made a cutting motion across his throat. His meaning was final. The war for me was over. He began to turn, to walk back toward the barn where a Jeep's engine coughed and sputtered to life. The sound was raw and alien. I looked at the food, the kindness. It was a trap. It had to be. They would take it back. They would laugh. My fingers, numb and clumsy, fumbled with the tin. I dropped it. It hit the frozen earth with a dull clang, stew splashing over the snow like blood. I froze. I had wasted it. The monster would turn. The monster would be angry.
Hey.
He stopped. He looked back. He saw the tin on the ground. He saw me, a statue of terror. He did not shout. He did not raise his rifle. He did not raise his rifle. He walked back, each step slow and deliberate in the crunching snow.
It's all right.
He bent down. His knees cracked. He picked up the tin, brushed the snow from its rim. He held it out to me again. His eyes were a tired blue, surrounded by lines. They held no rage, only a weary understanding that felt worse than any blow. I could not move. My hand would not take it.
Here.
He did not put it in my hand. He set it carefully on the ground between my feet. Then he stood. He looked at me for a long moment. He gave a single, slow nod. Then he turned and walked away, his boots making solid sounds in the slush. He never looked back. I stood over the tin. The steam still rose, a frail ghost in the cold air. The Jeep's engine settled into a low idle. I was alone with the food and the mercy and the silence. The cold bit into my knees. I looked down at the tin. The stew was thick, with chunks of pale meat. The smell was rich, a fog of beef and salt that made my stomach clench. My hand shook. I could not make them stop.
Eat.
His voice was flat, a command. I fumbled for the tin. My fingers were wood. I could not get a grip. The metal was hot. I dropped it. The stew splashed into the dirty snow. I stared at the waste. A wave of shame burned my face. I waited for the blow.
Come on.
He did not hit me. He took my arm. His grip was firm, not cruel. He led me away from the spilled food toward a broken section of stone wall. He sat me down. The stone was cold through the thin cloth of my trousers. He stood over me, blocking the wind.
Look at me.
I forced my head up. His face was tired. He reached into the pocket of his field jacket. He pulled out a brown paper wrapper. He tore it open. Inside was a bar of chocolate. It was dark, almost black. He broke off a large piece.
Open your hand.
I held out my palm. It was trembling. He pressed the piece into it. His fingers were warm. The chocolate was heavy. It smelled of earth and sugar, a scent from another world.
Eat it.
I put it in my mouth. The cold snapped against my teeth. Then it softened. A bitterness first, then a sweetness so deep and sudden it was a pain. It flooded my tongue. It was not food. It was a memory of being a child. My eyes stung. I chewed slowly. The shaking in my hands began to ease. What shaking in my hands began to ease?
You're just a kid.
He said it quietly, not to me, to the war. I swallowed. The sweetness lingered in my throat. The monster was a man. He had given me chocolate. The lie I'd lived inside for years cracked open, and the truth was colder than the snow. His hand stayed on my shoulder, guiding me forward. The snow crunched under our boots, a sound like breaking bones.
Easy now. Just keep walking.
We moved past the other Americans. I braced for a blow, a curse. I saw their faces in flashes. One man looked up from cleaning his rifle, his eyes empty. Another was heating a tin of something over a small flame, the smell of meat and beans hitting me like a physical blow. My stomach clenched. He glanced at me, then away. There was no hatred, only a tired indifference. It was worse than hatred. I was nothing to them, a problem to be moved. The barn loomed ahead, its roof half gone, black timbers against the gray sky. From inside came sounds I did not expect, low voices, not shouts. The soft clink of metal on metal.
Almost there.
We stepped through the shattered doorway. The air changed. It was warmer, thick with smells that fought each other, the sharp, clean sting of disinfectant, the coppery reek of blood, the sweet, sickly odor of infection. And, beneath it all, the old scent of hay and animals, not yet driven out by the war. Men lay on cots and on the ground, wrapped in blankets or bandages. A soldier with a red cross on his arm moved between them, his hands quick and sure. He was not a monster. He was a man, bending to whisper to a boy who cried for his mother. Sergeant Miller led me to a clear space against the wall.
Sit.
I sank down, the rough stone cold through the thin cloth of my tunic. My whole body was one great tremor. I wrapped my arms around my knees, trying to make myself small. The sergeant knelt in front of me. He took a canteen from his belt, unscrewed the cap.
Drink. Slow.
The water was lukewarm. It washed the last ghost of chocolate from my tongue. I drank until he pulled the canteen back.
Too fast, you'll be sick.
He studied my face, then my hands, where they gripped my shins. The shaking would not stop.
They'll get you processed. You'll get a real meal.
He said it like it was a simple fact, a promise. I stared at him. This enemy, in this place of quiet pain and quiet work. The last of the lies, the ones about cages and torture, bled away into the straw. The truth was here, in the smell of medicine and the sound of murmured English. It was a heavier weight than any rifle. The blanket was coarse wool, smelling of dust and sweat. It scratched my neck, but its weight was a solid thing. A fact. I pulled it tighter. My hands had stopped their shaking. From my place against the barn wall, I watched them work. The American medics moved in a slow, sure rhythm. No shouting. No panic. Just the soft rip of bandages and the clink of metal in basins of pink water.
You warm enough?
He stood a few feet away, smoking a cigarette. His eyes were on the medics, not me. I nodded. The gesture felt strange. A wounded man on a stretcher moaned. A medic knelt, spoke in a low voice, and pressed a clean dressing to a dark stain on the man's leg. He did it with a kind of tired gentleness. I had seen our medics. The same exhaustion, the same blood, but always with fear in their eyes. Fear of the commissar, fear of retreat, fear of failing the fatherland. Here there was only the work, saving the man in front of them. The smell reached me then, not just medicine and blood. From a corner of the barn, a soldier lifted the lid from a metal pot. Steam rose, carrying a scent that made my stomach clench. Meat, beans, real food. They were feeding their wounded. I saw a man with a bandaged head being helped to sip from a cup.
You'll get yours soon.
Miller had followed my stare. He took a last pull on his cigarette and crushed it under his boot.
Different rules for prisoners, but you'll eat.
He said it without malice, a logistical fact. The last lie, the final one, broke then. It did not shatter like glass. It dissolved like a stain in that pink water. They were not monsters. They were men, weary men, in a weary war who stopped to feed the broken and speak softly to the scared. The enemy had shown me a kindness my own commanders never had. They gave me water and a promise of food. They let me keep my blanket. My leaders gave me a rifle that was too heavy, a uniform that did not fit, and a cause that required my death at 16. The victory was not outside in the frozen fields. It was here, in this quiet barn. The truth was a quiet, terrible thing. It settled in my bones, colder than the snow. I looked at Sergeant Miller. He was watching the road now, his hand resting on the pistol at his hip. A guard. But first, he had been a man who saw a scared kid and told him to drink slow. I wrapped the coarse blanket tighter. The war was not over. But for me, in that silence, it was. That act, that single, quiet kindness, became the cornerstone of my life. It taught me to look for the man before the uniform, the face before the flag. In the decades that followed, I saw the world rebuild itself, and I tried to rebuild my own soul on that principle. I raised my children to see the humanity in others, even when it is difficult to find. And when my grandson asks me about the war, I do not tell him of battles or glory. I tell him of a cold night, a shared flask, and the silence that was not empty, but full of a truth I had never been allowed to know. That is why we remember. Subscribe to help us keep these stories alive. The characters, incidents, and dialogue in this video are dramatized for narrative and entertainment effect. While some events may be inspired by real-life themes, this story is a work of fiction.